Olympiad, and some of you may be familiar with that. And the AIO is similar to that in several different ways. So we've been taking on more of these other competitions lately as well. So here we have what we're going to be going over. Basically, hopefully, everything you need to know about preparing for this competition, especially for our KTBYTE students, but also some general information and other resources you can use. If there's anything that isn't covered here, please just let us know at the end of the seminar or get in touch with us later. We're always happy to chat with you about any activity really that you're interested in, and especially about the AIO, which is coming up. So yeah, let's start with kind of the overview. It's a 3-hour exam. Sometimes I don't like the term test or exam for talking about these competitions because it makes students feel like they should have prepared to do perfectly on it. And if they can't answer a question, then it means they've done something wrong. And that's not really how you should think about these. Every one of these questions that they give on these sort of competitions is intended to be a challenge. It's intended to give them something that isn't exactly in the format or in the style that they've seen before, and to have a way of thinking about the problem in a way that will require them to shift from what they've seen before. It's not expected that most students would finish all the problems. It would be very unlikely, honestly, for a student who's taking the competition at the correct level to actually get a perfect on the contest. So it's a bit different from an in-school exam. But with that said, it is, of course, in that format of working on your own and attempting to answer questions correctly without assistance and in a time limit in this case. So there are 6 problems to complete. These problems are all programming problems. So students have to write 6 different programs that run in a correct way. And we can maybe talk a little bit later about a little bit more about the format of that, although that's not really our main focus here. It's more about overall picture of the contest. It is important for students to have the programming experience. If they've really just learned to program, it's not going to be a test of, do you know the basic pieces of programming? Students are going to have to be familiar with the process of programming and even the idea of thinking about a problem that isn't telling them exactly what they should program and planning out what they should program to solve that problem. So if they're brand new to it, you would want to prepare for it a bit more before taking this on. Although I will say that I would encourage anybody who's just interested in this sort of thing, and especially if they've done other competitions, to try it out and take a look at it. Anyway, I'm getting a little off topic. We can talk more about which students should take this in a second, but it is a programming competition. Our classes, we have our core class series from level 1 through 6, where level 1 is for very young students, level 6 is university level computer science work, a lot of which is programming, although as you get more advanced, some of it becomes more about the concepts behind the programming. You don't need to be all the way through our core classes to take these sort of competitions. Around the core 5 level is where we would recommend focusing on this. The AIO and the related competition called the CCC, which is the Canadian Computing Challenge or contest, can't remember. Those are definitely something you can start to get into at around core 5. Some students who are very highly motivated, even maybe towards the end of core 4 level, at least assuming they're not sort of brand new to it, they might even be able to get into it there. Now, like we said, we're not expecting most students, even students with a lot of experience, to necessarily solve all 6 of these problems perfectly on their first try. But the core 5 students can definitely make a good dent in it and get some recognition for their skills, even without needing to solve every one. And then obviously, the more advanced you are, you may well get to the point where you can solve all of them and be doing even more advanced competitions. So this is an Australian competition organized by the Australian Math Trust. And it is still open to everybody as long as you register through a school like KTBYTE, where we've actually registered with them and can give the competition. The competition is done through their website, which is similar to a lot of these others, where your computer program that you write would be written on your own software, or in the case of this competition, would be written in the virtual machines that KTBYTE provides. But then after you're done writing your program, you would submit this to the website, and their website would give you feedback on it and sort of tell you, did you solve this correctly? Should you retry something about the problem? That sort of thing. It is an individual contest. There are no teams, although obviously you can prepare as a team, and it is really fun to have friends doing this sort of work as well. C, C++, Java, and Python are really sort of a common group of languages, especially the last three here are pretty common offered languages for these kinds of competitions. We do most of our courses in Java, as many of you know who have been taking our courses, because most students in North America are going to be taking the AP exam if they have access to that exam. It's a good exam to take, and that exam in computer science is given in Java. So it is a Java-specific test. But all of these languages are definitely capable of solving these problems, and it's nice that these competitions offer you the choice. So it's definitely fine to use whichever one you're comfortable with. I did want to mention that Python, it might actually be completely fine for the AIO, but a number of these competitions sort of lean a little bit against Python, even if they allow it, just because you don't have quite as much technical control over the efficiency of your programs and how fast they run. And that is a component of the sort of challenge, is to get the programs running really fast. And so we would really recommend Java, or if you know C++, C++ is very good too. But Python is fine to start with, but it's something that you would want to sort of focus on one of the others if you really want to do a lot of competitions like this. Moving on to, here we go. The information about the event itself. This is a single event per year. Unfortunately, we wish it was offered more, but it's once per year. So the 2024 event will be August 28th from 7 to 10 Eastern time. And if I can do the math right, that would be 4 to 7 Pacific time. Obviously, you can make the adjustment for your time zone. And it'll be done in our KTBYTE online classroom. Now, I mentioned a few minutes ago the idea of a KTBYTE virtual machine. If anyone's not familiar with that idea, and in fact, I'm sure a lot of students and parents may not have taken our classes using the virtual machines before, this is basically a way that we can run a computer system inside our KTBYTE web servers. And then the students can log into those systems from home and have a completely functioning programming space to work with. But we can also see the same system at the same time. So it allows us to supervise the students doing this competition. So it's a great way to be able to do this from home while still having the supervision that's required. So it is 3 hours, and it is okay to, stretch your legs or something during the competition, but you should definitely plan ahead and make sure you really can dedicate the time to this, and make sure your computer setup is good to go. Try to have a meal beforehand, try to sleep well beforehand, be prepared for this event, because again, there's no other opportunity for this particular event. These 3 hours are it. Going back to the students that should do this, I talked a little bit about our core class levels. I mentioned if you're a little bit younger than sort of the core 5 level, but you've maybe done some other competitions before, especially maybe if you've done mathematics competitions or other sort of advanced competition kinds of things, you may sort of have a feel for this sort of activity and be able to jump in a little bit earlier. So if you have questions about that, shoot us an email. We don't want to discourage anybody from trying it out. It's just that to be solving a lot of the problems, it tends to be that you need to be at the sort of level that you see at the core 5 classes. But I actually just had a class today preparing some students, and one of them is in core 4B and is doing a great job. So it's definitely possible. Just let us know. There are other competitions for younger students who maybe aren't quite at this sort of programming level of being able to take on open-ended problems without more specific direction, but there are other competitions for those levels too. So let us know if you're interested in any others other than AIO and USICO sorts of things. So yeah, I definitely would encourage any student who is interested in competitions to do the AIO. It's something that you can definitely get into just by having that experience, and you may not you may not feel like you're an expert the first time around, but it really gives you a sense of just how these kinds of problems work and helps prepare you for others. So I definitely encourage it for anyone in that range. Now, the competition itself is divided into intermediate and senior division. That doesn't really change much about what you're asked to do, but it does change a little bit about sort of the scoring thresholds to get recognition and certificates for this event. So the grade up to grade 10 is the lower division, which they still call intermediate. I do think it's sort of a signal about how advanced this work can be. The fact that they don't have a junior division, they just call it intermediate and senior. It's not really for beginner programmers, but it's something you can do after you have a year or two of experience and go from there. Now, they also, just the fact that, again, the cutoff here is grade 10 before you're in senior division, it does imply that if you're someone who's already in the core 5 classes and you're in middle school, maybe, going into 8th grade or something like that, you're definitely ahead of the game. You're ahead of where many students are, even students doing these sorts of competitions. So you should be really proud of yourself and definitely check out the AIO, but also don't feel too stressed out if it feels like it is a challenge and you sort of have to get used to this high school level of challenge for these things. So moving on, there are a lot of benefits for doing this. I've already mentioned that I think just anyone generally interested in these kinds of things should do it. There is recognition for the work you do. There is a participation certificate. And then if you do well, which again, you don't need to be completing every problem they give you to already be doing very well, but they have different sort of tiers of certificate you can get for actual work on the competition event. So aside from the sort of direct rewards, it is a great challenge for you, and it does develop the ability to solve problems. It is great to know how to program for its own sake and sort of understand the programs that we see in the world and be able to make software and that sort of thing. But this is a more open-ended challenge. And that kind of skill set to be able to solve those open-ended challenges is really valuable, not just in computer science and academia, but even just in life, to take a situation and think, I have some tools that I can use here. I haven't used those tools for this situation before, but I can experiment with that. I can think through, make a plan, and put together something or take some actions that will solve this problem. So it's about problem-solving skills, and it's a great way to develop that. I would also say that if you enjoy puzzles, it's very satisfying because it's the satisfaction of solving a puzzle. You have the pieces. You haven't seen necessarily how they fit together in this particular way before, but it's very satisfying once you figure that out. So it is both fun and really good at developing these important academic and even life skills. So if you are interested in other competitions, you will get a lot of good benefits from looking at it with the AIO. We won't be talking too much about the others, but they are very similar, or a number of them are very similar. And the AIO is the only one of this sort of category of competitions that's offered in the summer. So it would be nice if you sort of had any month of the year that you could just do one of these competitions, see how you're doing, hopefully, improve or get some recognition about how well you're doing. But this is the only one that you have that isn't during the sort of Northern Hemisphere school year. And of course, this is the other side of the world that we're talking about. So it's handy that Australia is offering this and we can participate in that. So to sort of explain that contrast with USA Computing Olympiad and the other one that I mentioned, which is the Canadian Computing Competition, all three of these, as well as many others in other countries, are technically preparing or in the model of, at least, for the International Olympiad in Informatics, which is an international global competition where the top 4 students in below university level in each country will send a team of 4 to participate in this international competition. So if you think about the Olympics, which are going on right now, the IOI is kind of the high school computer science version of the Olympics. You don't need to be at the Olympics level to gain value from doing a sport. And it's the same thing here. You don't need to be going up to that absolute top level to already be doing a fantastic job and showing your skills with computer science. But I wanted to mention that because it explains why all of these competitions are so similar. This AIO competition, even though it doesn't have exactly the same format or exactly the same scoring rules, the style of the problems and the way you have to do the problem solving, and even the way the problems are described to students, and even some of the technical steps they need to do to set up and create a program that will solve these problems. A lot of those things, many of those things, are pretty much the same between the AIO and USICO and the CCC and several others. So what that means is you don't need to worry about, oh, I need to spend all this time to prepare for the AIO, so I'm not going to do that. I'd rather just focus on USICO, because it's the same preparation you'd be doing. Any kind of problem solving for any of these is really training the skills you need for all of them. The only extra thing you need to do for AIO would be to just like learn about their website and learn that, they publish their problem descriptions as a PDF document instead of on a web page, and various other little, very minor technical things. Now, those things do often feel intimidating to students who are brand new to doing these kinds of competitions. So we do want to help you with that. There's support that we can give you for that, and we'll be there during the competition as well. But in terms of the overall skills and the idea of advancing in these competitions, you should absolutely try to do all of them, because they all interrelate. They're all really the same skill set. Now, if you do happen to be an Australian student, you can even progress to the higher level competitions as well. Again, you don't necessarily need to be aiming for the national team, but there is a sort of series of invitational competitions as well. And for US students, I believe it basically ends at the AIO level, where you're open to do that, but you aren't going to be considered for the Australian national team. And basically all the others sort of have a similar thing. USICO, I will say, to give a little advertising for this other competition, which is one we have even more courses for, USICO is open for everyone, no matter where you are in the world, to participate in all the way up through the highest division of competition. It's only like the national team itself that you would be restricted from. So AIO isn't quite like that, but it's still for anyone who is beginner to intermediate level with these competitions, you will find plenty to do, even just with this first competition that they offer. I already talked a little bit about this, but maybe some of the specific details, especially for those of you who already know a little bit about USICO, would be useful to point out. First of all, it is Australian versus US competition. Again, open to anybody, anywhere, but in terms of advancement, there may be restrictions based on where you are. The AIO is 3 hours. It's only once per year in August. The USICO is technically 3 to 5 hours, but it's basically 4 hours at a time, but basically a similar experience. The exact number of hours is different, but it feels like a little bit of a long time to be sitting down and doing programming, I suppose. But really, it's a fairly short time when you consider the challenge of the problem. So even though the hour length is slightly different, it's pretty similar. Now, USICO is a little bit more flexible about exactly when you do it. I do want to remind you that the AIO, which is the one coming up, that is very specific when you have to do it. So you need to schedule ahead of time and make sure to, commit to being able to do that time if you want to do it this year. And of course, we expect to be able to do it again next year and continue to do so. USICO is also given 4 times per year. So not only do you have flexibility about when exactly during a weekend you might do the USICO competition, there's even 4 chances per year to do well, gain recognition, advance through the levels of the competition. The AIO, just once. So again, try to aim to do that one event. In AIO, you can get awards for how well you did on the one contest. And I guess everyone gets a participation certificate for doing the work. But then there's bronze, silver, and gold awards for, more and more problems completed and more credit on them. USICO works a little bit differently, actually. So there is advancement through bronze, silver, and gold and platinum division, but that is a long-term process. That is not something where you take your first contest and you get the platinum award or the gold award. So it is actually a little bit different between them. So that's maybe for some of you, that may be good news about the AIO, that you sort of immediately get that recognition. Now, I will say, just to reassure everybody, even though USICO doesn't give a certificate for how you did on the bronze division competition, if you are doing well, you will be promoted to the silver division, for example, and that in itself is a very good accomplishment. That is something that you should be extremely proud of, and absolutely, list on your applications to things and stuff like that, just like you would list a certificate from the AIO. So they have somewhat different ways that you would think about the awards and that sort of thing, but they're both give you that recognition for how well you're doing. Now, the AIO is a little bit easier to get started with than USICO. So the highly, highly recommended prerequisite would be Core 4B class. You should be at a level where you're ready to take Core 5 level classes. For most students doing this, I would recommend I would recommend taking Core 5 as well, because that will build a little bit more advanced and deeper perspective in Java programming and just overall prepare you better. So we do recommend that. But again, if you're a highly motivated student, if you're just really interested in this stuff, and especially if you've been doing programming for many years, Core 4B could be okay. Just check in with us if you're kind of not sure or want to have a conversation about that. USICO is a little bit more challenging. Core 5B is what we would recommend for that. And to be honest, these things vary. USICO itself has gotten a little bit more difficult over the years, which is actually another reason to make sure to do the AIO, because it will be a little less intimidating to get started that way. So right now we recommend Core 5B, but it certainly wouldn't be easy to do even after taking Core 5B. So yeah, please do recognize that. Now, I did want to say one other thing about the sort of prerequisites here. The AIO has 6 problems. The first problem or two might be actually quite easy for a student who's been doing well in Core 4B and Core 5A. So you might sort of wonder, why would we require that? If you can do a problem or two, why not do it at even a younger level? And if you're interested in this, that would be okay. But what a lot of younger students and less experienced students have more trouble with is just the overall side issues about doing the competition, of sort of staying focused for the full time, or being flexible in setting up a different kind of problem than they've seen before, or that they haven't, maybe they're not even used to setting up their own programs because they're used to sort of us giving problems and they just answer them. So there's a certain amount of sort of independent work that's required and ability to be flexible with your thinking, that it's definitely a little easier and less stressful once you're at a higher level. So this is the prerequisite we would recommend, but if someone, again, is really interested in it, there is some flexibility there. Just, yeah, I wouldn't expect to be able to do all the problems right away, and be prepared for there to be a bit of a challenge in just this style of thing. And again, if you've done other competitions similar to this, especially advanced mathematics competitions, that you may know a little bit more about the feeling of this and being sort of on your own a little bit in solving problems that aren't very obvious how to solve. So we have just a couple notes here about the 2023 experience. We did offer the competition for the first time last year, and I thought it went pretty well, given that it was the very first time and we weren't quite sure how things would work. There were 41 participants. Several people did extremely well and solved many problems, gold and silver awards. I actually don't recall if they had the platinum award last time. Maybe they did and we didn't quite get there, or maybe they just went up to gold. But long story short, yeah, we were very proud of the students for that. And again, the more practice you do with USICO, the more you can really just expect to jump right into AIO and do pretty well with it. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing more students do well with our higher amounts of preparation that we have now. So one thing we did see, though, is that even though the competition is a lot easier in terms of the academic content and the sort of complexity of the problems to solve compared to something like USA Computing Olympiad. And so we did encourage a lot of students who were a little bit younger to try it out. A lot of people felt a little bit stressed out, and just overall people who were newer to the competitions felt like, aside from the problem solving, even when that part of it wasn't that complicated, it was just confusing on how to set up your programs and how to deal with errors that would come up and how to use the website and stuff. So that definitely prompted us to offer our offerings that we have now, including our competition support class, which is a series of seminars and lessons and content to help both parents and students prepare and know what they need to do to prepare for the competition, as well as several lower level than I say lower level. That's it's still, core 4 and core 5 level, but lower level than advanced USICO classes. We've had USICO classes for a long time, but we've only recently been focusing more and more on the competition preparation classes for generally these competitions, even for students who aren't quite ready for USICO. So yeah, we've already had a number of students go through these classes, and we think they've been pretty helpful. And it's nice to be able to show students who aren't necessarily in core 6 level that they can do these problems. They just need to sort of get used to the format of them and solving some of the issues that come up along the way. So we have a number of different things we'll be going over later in these slides. So, but let us know if you're sort of looking for more assistance or advice on that. So in particular, preparing for 2024, we have the AI support class that started a couple weeks ago. So hopefully you've been keeping an eye on our newsletters, and if you're interested in that, to sign up for that. You can still sign up for that and see the material that we've been sharing with people and attend the remaining sessions for that, I believe. So let us know if you'd like more info on that. We also have these competition prep classes, and we're doing sort of a special edition of these specifically focused on the AIO, where we won't be trying to cover the other competitions like we do in our longer classes. We'll just be focusing on, hey, the AIO is coming up. We will be doing practice problems. We'll be practicing using the website, all the skills that students need to learn. And if your student hasn't taken one of our classes before, where we use our virtual machines, they'll be getting used to that too in this prep class. So these are basically 6 hours of practice and learning about the competition and other technical things to prepare for it, as well as the competition itself. So the competition was August 28th. So we have one series starting next week on August 14th, which is meeting twice per week until the final competition. And that's 1.5 hours each meeting. So a little bit longer just to get in the prep that we want to do. And then we have another one that's meeting 3 times per week, both the week before and the week of the competition. And you can see the dates here, and you can go to our website to see the exact times and double check that later to sign up, hopefully. So yeah, what is this class about? Like I said, it's similar to our more general competition class that we have been offering for the past year, that covers all 3 of the competitions I've mentioned, with a special focus on AIO and CCC because they're a bit easier to get started with than the USICO. But this one is just going to be focused on the AIO, and it's a little bit time compressed. So we won't be giving longer homework assignments to do. We'll be giving practice problems to do. We'll be specifically focused on AIO and do less of the sort of week-to-week stuff that we would do over the long term. So it'll be a bit of a crash course for students, but it'll definitely cover what you need to know and see several, not just several, see a good number of problems that students can do for practice that should be pretty similar to the actual contest. By the way, just a little side note about all of our competition classes. We occasionally have, or we sometimes have problems and occasionally use problems that are sort of made up or don't come directly from the contest that we're giving. But we tend to like to use the actual past competition problems as content for the class and go over them together. We feel that that's the best way to ensure that what you're practicing on really is as close as we can get it to what you would expect to see. Every one of these contests, there are new problems to do, so we never know exactly what's going to come up. But yeah, by doing the actual contest problems, that's the best preparation. Now, there are students who are, especially students who are already more advanced in these competitions, who maybe have already done a large number of AIO problems or USICO problems, and they may go to other online contest sites like LeetCode is a site that has a very large number of programming problems. But yeah, it is helpful to focus on the actual problems from the competition. That's what we will be focusing on in this class because we don't have a huge amount of time, so that's the best use of our time that we have. Like we've already mentioned, to really do well in this kind of class, you really should hopefully have completed 4B. And again, if you've completed 5A, even better. But if you're a little bit below that, but you feel that you're just kind of always really good at the programming and able to fly through it, you may be able to do well with that. So just let us know if you want to talk more about that. But that's approximately the level this class is aimed for. Um, so uh, I already mentioned, I think this, but just to reiterate, there is a fee to register for the AIO that they charge, and then we have to do the registration as well as a school. So that is included in the prep class, as well as the 6 hours of the actual instructional time. And by the way, I will be the teacher as far as I know right now. I should be the teacher for all of these prep classes, I think, although maybe we may have another experienced competition teacher, but that I believe is the plan right now. So I wanted to mention that because those of you who have been in my classes before, you know that I'm always basically willing to stay after class and chat with you about sort of a follow-up question about things like that. So it's not only the 6 hours of time, it's sort of extra follow-up if you want to do that and talk things over. Something that isn't listed here, but you are welcome to do is those of you who've been in our classes before know that we have online help hours, and some of those help hours are dedicated for USICO and competition students. So while we cannot promise that the help hours assistants will be directly familiar with an AIO problem, they should be familiar with problem solving, especially USICO problems. So you're welcome to bring a problem that maybe we looked at in class that you want to talk over a little further. If you sort of realize you have follow-up questions about it, and class has already passed, and you want to ask those questions right away, you can use our help hours that we offer every evening as well. And then finally, at the end of this sequence, we would have the actual proctored competition as well. And one thing we talked a little bit about last year, was our first time doing it. We realized that having everyone in the same classroom, those 40 students all taking it all in one place where questions that came up would sort of be coming up with everyone else sort of in the conversation, which could be a little distracting. We are going to be dividing things up a little bit more. So yeah, you'll sort of have a little bit more focused group of people doing the competition, a little bit of a less chaotic environment when you do the comp prep class and take the contest that way. So just wanted to share this. Those of you who have signed up for our courses might have seen this sort of page before, but if you go to the Comp Prep AIO part of our site, which I'm sure you've probably seen in the newsletter links, and we'll be sending out follow-up emails to find those links, but you can also just browse it on our site. This is one of the offerings. This is the one that is twice per week, and you can see that the last session here is the competition itself. So that's why that's actually 3 hours, and the others are just 1.5 hours. And then this is the 3 time per week option for 1 hour each of those 3 times, followed by the day after the last hour of those prep sessions, again, would be the 3-hour proctored competition. So basically, yeah, you can join the competition just by going straight to the classroom that we use for the prep class. So that should make it very easy and straightforward for everyone. I do want to remind, as long as we're looking at the schedule, how strict this timing is for the competition itself. You have to be there in that 3 hours to do it. Unfortunately, that's just the rule. They are not flexible with the timing of it. So good to plan ahead for that. Also, these classes themselves, the comp prep classes, they don't have any makeup time. So we like to offer, multiple times to take a given lesson, but the best we could do here is recording of the class content. We wouldn't be able to have any makeup lesson for this, given the timetable and the fact that it's sort of customized for the first time prep this year. We are looking forward to awarding some certificates for people. Basically, the AIO will tell us who did well, and we can give you copies of those. We also have a coupon code here for signing up, and I believe we'll be sending out just a copy of all these slides when the seminar is over. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of info about that. So don't forget to use the sign-up code. And remember, it includes several different things, including the class instruction, the competition registration itself, the proctoring of it and using the technology, as well as our competition support material. You get all of that if you do the prep class, and the help hours as well. So just to take a little bit of a broader perspective for a second, we've been focusing pretty much on the AIO for now, because that's the one coming up. And I mentioned that the others are not really offered until the American or North American school year. So we did want to point out the other competitions because if you're in the range to do the AIO, you may well be interested in these as well. So I mentioned USICO and CCC already. Those are the ones that are very similar to the AIO in format. And already mentioned again that USICO is 4 times per year, December through March, basically one competition per month. CCC is given in February. So it's kind of right in the middle of the USICO season and just, another date to mark on the calendar there. So we'll obviously be talking a lot more about the CCC as we approach sort of the new year and go into next year. We have given the CCC competition twice at this point as well. So looking forward to doing AO the second time and CCC the third time coming up next year. ACSL is another one that stands for American Computer Science League. And that's a little bit different in format. Although again, if you're interested in these things and if you like these competitions and like the puzzle solving and like learning about computer science in general, I highly recommend ACSL. That's actually the one competition that I did back when I was in high school and middle school. And yeah, I think it was a lot of fun and a great opportunity to be doing that even in middle school. ACSL actually even has an elementary division these days that doesn't include a programming part, but does have like short answer problems and things like that. But yeah, ACSL is a little bit different format. It's a hybrid at least at the middle and high school level. It is a hybrid of short answer problems and programming problems. So the programming skills that you generally have and also that you would apply in USICO and CCC, there's definitely a little bit of that in ACSL, but to really prepare for ACSL, you also need to learn about these specific theoretical computer science topics and certain specific skills that they test on. So we won't get into all that now, but it's a little bit of a different kind of training. So that's why we don't necessarily make you that promise that we can for USICO and CCC that everything you're doing for AIO will directly apply to ACSL. ACSL, there's a little bit of extra stuff to learn, but it's still a great activity. And we have an ACSL club that you can join and be doing a lot of practice problems. I will say also, ACSL probably isn't quite as difficult. It's not intended to go up to that international competition level. So even in like the highest division of ACSL, well, there's definitely a good amount of challenge there. It's probably not as difficult as the others. So if you're sort of worried about difficulty, and I would say the only one to really, really be cautious of is USICO, because that can be a bit of a shock in the challenge level. Whereas all the others, including ACSL and CCC and AO, those are all a great place to get started with competitions as long as you've had a little bit of experience at this point. Okay. And I also wanted to mention, even though we don't need to get into all the details, these are the programming focused competitions. There are other competitions like the computational and algorithmic thinking competition called the CAT and the Bebris Challenge that are more not about the programming itself, but they're about thinking logically and about figuring out things by putting logical pieces together. And those could cover age ranges and grade ranges anywhere from very young elementary school students all the way up through high school students. So please do visit our competition page if you're interested in learning more about those. So that is it for our sort of planned content here. I was thinking I could talk a little bit more about how to prepare and things to know about the use or about the AIO practice site. But the fact is, that's the kind of stuff you'll get with our competition support content, and you might have already seen some of that thing with the newsletters and things we've been sending out. So we can cover that in a lot of different ways. So let me know if you have questions in that direction. But yeah, we're happy to answer questions about anything at this point. This link, by the way, right here, this is our general place you can sign up just to talk through things you're interested in computer science or things your student is dealing with, any conversation you'd like to have about the future or figuring things out for your student, your child. We'd love to talk with you about that. So feel free to sign up for a meeting there. So yeah, that concludes the planned content. Please let us know any questions you have, and I will answer them. Let me bring up my place where I can see the questions. You can put questions in the chat, and in the question and answer section of Zoom, I think. Although, Chenru, you may know more about how the Zoom is configured right now.
Yeah, we have a Q&A part down on the screen at the bar. And everyone can type and ask questions. Yeah, Andrew, we have one.
Yeah, so it is technically possible to take the competition without the prep class or support class. And again, we mentioned a little bit about the experience last year, which overall was a good experience, but it was a bit chaotic. For students who haven't done that sort of competition before, and even parents as well, there often were issues that came up where they needed help to learn to use the website and those sorts of things. And it ended up being more support than we could really effectively give without sort of actually planning to do a meeting about it. So that's essentially what the comp support class is. It's giving that information that we've seen people struggle with. Now, if you have done these sort of things before with us, or if you've done the AIO itself before, just shoot us an email and we can possibly register you without sort of signing up for any other thing like that. But we're being a little bit more selective this time just because of the amount of confusion that some families had last time about just how to work with these systems that we need to work with. So if it is your first time doing any of these competitions, we really, really recommend those classes. I said those classes, but it's not even really a full class. It is a seminar session where you get all the info you need and also direct support. So in other words, we can more easily offer you that we can get you on the phone and talk to you about something rather than sort of basically having some people think they'll be able to handle it, and then at the last minute there's a lot of chaos and stress about it. So yeah, definitely recommend that for first-time people. But yeah, just shoot us an email if you think that isn't really the right fit for you and your experience. Teaching students about how to solve the problem faster and with better solutions. So that is overall the kind of skills that all of these competitions do focus on. By the way, I'm going to adjust my microphone. It's kind of tilted weirdly. Hopefully you've been able to hear me okay. Anyway, yeah, that is the overall skill set. And I guess I can talk a little bit about the difficulty levels of the USA Computing Olympiad. And I'm sorry if this feels a little bit like a tangent, but this is actually pretty helpful for understanding the level of challenge as students get better and better with this sort of competition. So for the USACO bronze division of competition, there are problems of high complexity where you need to think carefully about different cases that come up and situations that arise. But the speed that the program runs is not a big factor. Now, I'm not actually sure if that's what you meant by solving the problem faster, but that is something that is a factor at higher levels of competition. So that's USACO bronze, the introductory level of the USACO competition. High complexity, but not a need for high efficiency right away. In silver division of USACO, the next level up, there is a need for higher efficiency, and the complexity is sort of similar and getting a little bit higher than that. In gold division, you need even more specialized techniques that you need for that efficiency and even to organize the data in your problem. And platinum division is essentially the international competition level where it's the highest peak of that. So I wanted to give you that background just so that you know when you're first getting started, that efficiency concern is not the big focus. It's the problem-solving process that is the big focus. And that is what even our introductory competition classes will focus on. And so when you say solving the problem faster, if you're talking about the actual personal process of problem solving, that's exactly what we will practice in these prep classes. And if you take our the 6-hour class is just focused on AIO, and we will definitely focus on getting used to that. But in 6 hours, we will not expect people to be, at their fastest possible speed for doing the contest. So if you want to develop those skills further, that's why we have a whole competition curriculum to work through, starting with the longer 12-plus-hour version of the comp prep class, and then progressing up through the USACO levels. And just to clarify one other thing, I mentioned sort of these different levels of USACO, where there's sort of more and more specialized techniques to know. All of them involve problem solving. But we now have this comp prep class, which is a bit more generalized and not as focused just on USICO. And it's a little bit easier than USICO Bronze, but it's still focused on the problem-solving process. And so part of that is giving students a mental framework of how do we approach a problem? And which I can summarize pretty quickly. We want to precisely understand the problem, not just sort of passively reread it in a vague way, but actively try to put what it's saying about the problem together into maybe a diagram, maybe a chart, maybe key bullet points. Those are skills we'll practice in class as we discuss the problem initially. We'll practice brainstorming and coming up with ideas that may or may not work out, which is an essential part of the problem-solving process. Then we'll practice actually working through to see if those brainstorming ideas actually lead to somewhere with examples, and then putting that into an outline, and then coding from that outline, and then also debugging the code. So what a lot of students come into these classes with is a feeling that most of the programming they've done, they need to know a key skill about like how Java works, for example, or how something in Python works. And then once they read the problem, they start programming. And then if there's a bug, they try out different versions of the code until it works. And that's not a very efficient process. That's a little time consuming when you have a more complicated program. It turns out to be more efficient to make a plan, to do the brainstorming, to make an outline of what you're doing before you code. So those are the sort of faster problem solving techniques and more effective problem solving techniques that we practice in the classes. So basically, I hope the answer is yes. I certainly think the answer is yes, that that is our way of improving the quality of the students' answers and their ability to think through what they need to think through to solve these problems. Any other questions? Yeah, so I will say this. I always hesitate to give time estimates, especially in a short time, because the fact is doing well at these kinds of competitions is a long-term process. And the other issue is it's very hard to predict because it depends on the student so much. If you're someone who has done other not courses, other competitions like this and has always really thoroughly reviewed their core 5 material and has been doing great in class, it may be that, just getting familiar with the website, with the in-class content, and maybe doing 1 or 2 other practice problems before the competition in a month, or actually not even a month anymore, it's really more like 3 weeks, maybe that would be fine. For a student who's maybe struggled a lot in class, they might want to do a lot more review of previous class material. And how much that needs to be done depends on how much they haven't reviewed those things recently or have been struggling with it. In terms of the AIO problems themselves, I think that the 6 hours of class that we're planning to offer will be a good amount to be able to do probably about 6 problems or so together as a group, and we'll point out that they're easily found resources in the same way that. Sorry, let me phrase that a little more clearly. We will be using the official AIO practice materials during class. So students will be very familiar with themselves using those materials and even looking at more problems with that. So if you're someone who is very new to this stuff and you want to get in a little bit more practice, maybe doing a problem every day, which means if you start taking the prep class on the 14th, for example, starting next week, then maybe you could do 14 total problems before the contest. I think that would be fantastic preparation. I think you wouldn't expect in such a fairly small calendar length of time, you still wouldn't expect to be an absolute expert on everything there is, but you'd be very comfortable with the system at that point. I don't think that's necessary for everyone, but that's an example of a goal you could set for yourself if you feel nervous or less prepared for that. So I can't give a single answer to that because it just varies so much, but I guess that's 2 examples of my perspective. Someone who's really prepared could probably do fine just in class, maybe 1 or 2 other problems on their own that they follow up on in our help hours or getting in touch with us if they realize they're a little confused about anything. And then other students maybe try to do a problem a day. But again, that would be maybe more on the extreme end. I think a lot of students maybe would feel a little stressed out trying to do a problem a day. So it really varies by how much you want to focus on this in this month. And the more important thing, again, would be don't just focus on this one contest. This is one opportunity to do well and advance, but next year there will be another AIO, and during the school year, there will be all these other competitions. So I think a lot of students feel a lot of pressure to, oh, we must prepare for this one and do really well at it, and then maybe get discouraged if they feel, oh, it was more of a challenge than I thought, or, I relied too much on the guidance in our classes and I realized during the contest that I didn't feel capable of solving it myself. Those are okay feelings to have. So I wouldn't over stress or over prepare for this one. I would think of it more as a long-term process where even after this contest is over, you can practice more AIO problems and you can start to take a look at CCC and USICO problems as well. Think of it as a multi-year achievement to do better and better with this. Yeah, so that's a complicated answer to the question of preparation because there's a lot of components to that. Any other questions for us? Seems like that may be wrapping it up then. Hope this has been helpful to maybe from the poll, I'm seeing a lot of people found it helpful. I'm very glad to hear that. Please do keep in mind that we're here to chat with you and help you out with these things, whether that's a general KTBYTE meeting, just in general academic advising or specific questions about this contest. We want to help you out with this. We love to see our students succeed. Jen, you think we should? Mhm.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you everyone for attending this seminar. And yeah, later we will send you a follow-up email about seminar. You will get all these slides and recording videos about this seminar. Yeah.
Very good.
So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I guess that's it. Bye-bye.
Bye.